Morning, everybody. This is Carly Parcel with Johnson Plastics Plus. I'm one of the digital equipment representatives here. So I specialize in sublimation, heat transfer, and UV LED technologies. Today, we're kind of going to go over sublimation versus heat transfer. What are some of the differences? I absolutely love this topic because it can get so confusing and overwhelming with some of the different technologies and what they have to offer. So I'm going to go through just a couple quick housekeeping items. So if you cannot hear me, I would strongly recommend calling in and joining by phone. We have the phone number, access code, and PIN available. Also, if you cannot hear me, because I sound muffled, I do apologize. It is allergy season in small town Ohio. So please enter okay, can everybody hear me okay? We had some technical difficulties in the back there. If you want to submit a question, please feel free to do so. We're going to announce them aloud so everybody can hear that, and I will verbally answer. So there's a question section over in your toolbar there. Also, let us know if you can't hear me too. That's super helpful because they'll signal me to talk a little bit louder, project a little louder. Okay, and then also, if you want to see me larger, there is an option to expand that window. So it's just down at the bottom, the smaller screen, you have the option to expand and switch them. I know that's sometimes very helpful, especially when I'm doing the demos and stuff like that, to see me a little larger. I'm going to go ahead and launch a couple quick polls, and with these polls, it really helps us gear our webinars to a little bit more directly to what you guys are looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and get those launched here, and we only have 2, so they should be relatively quick. All right, they should have just popped up there for you. What technologies are you using in your business today? So if you could just select which one you're currently using, that's going to be very helpful for us. And it looks like we're getting some great responses here. So thank you very much. I'll just give it a couple more seconds. Okay, and it looks like we're about 45 to 50% of you folks already are doing sublimation today. About 29% do heat transfer, and about 24 with laser. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and go to that next poll. Launch. Okay. This is what are you looking to add to your business in the next 3 months regarding technology? So if you're in sublimation today, maybe you're looking at expanding into heat transfer, want to know some of the differences between the two. This will be a great webinar for you guys to listen in on and kind of gear that towards that. Okay, it looks like about 55% are looking to add sublimation to their business, about 30% looking to add heat transfer to their business, and about 14% for laser. So that's great. Thank you guys so very much for doing that. That really helps us gear our webinars. Go ahead and close that out there and get started. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to go over sublimation and heat transfer and what the differences of those technologies are. They are very similar, but yet completely different in the same aspect. So I'm going to hopefully alleviate some of that confusion. We're going to walk through the full process of sublimation and heat transfer. You're going to find out exactly what kind of substrates you can use, what is required to make that product, and then also kind of a comparison side by side of what the technologies look like. So I think it's going to be super helpful. I always like to see visuals and demonstrations, so I'm going to make sure that we have that full process for you guys today. So I just want to review what is sublimation for those folks who are not currently doing it today. I think it's very important to understand what sublimation actually is. So it is a digital printing process, and it's more of a chemistry than it is printing. So what happens is it's a dye process. So you print it out directly from the printer. It would be just a solid state. Once you activate that with heat, pressure, and time, it physically embeds itself into that product, making it a permanent solution. So dishwasher safe, vandal proof, just a fantastic option. And then it's very important because there are specific substrates that are going to be required in order for that sublimation ink to take. So it must be a polyester coating or a polyester material. And it can't just be any old plastic, otherwise it just won't accept and adhere and fully embed. It also must be white or light colored. With sublimation technology, it does not have white ink. So you're going to really cater to the negative space of your artwork to incorporate that white color. So it's a CMYK printer, so you want to make sure you have a white or light colored substrate. And then also it's at a very high temperature. So you're going to want to make sure that your products can take about 400 degrees of heat. And then also be pressed to pressure. Very important factors in there. So some of the equipment that you're going to need to get started, you're going to need a computer, a Mac or PC. The majority of the sublimation printers and softwares that accompany it do work with Mac. I know that's a huge question that I always get, and I think that's extremely important to point out. You would need a sublimation printer, sublimation ink, sublimation paper, and the polyester substrate. And then also a heat press. So you see there that I have a flat heat press. If you're looking to do drinkware or cylindrical objects, you could use a mug press or a convection oven with a shrink wrap. That would be a total possibility for you as well. And some of the benefits of sublimation, like I had kind of touched on, is it is scratch proof, vandal proof, waterproof. Folks love to use sublimation for drinkware because it's dishwasher safe. It's not going to rub out because it is completely embedded within that substrate, making it a permanent solution. The turnaround time is extremely quick. This shirt that I'm going to do today is only going to take us 30 seconds to transfer. I mean, the production cost is extremely low, so that's also a fantastic point. And then there's tons of products that you can make. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to do a quick little demo on the actual process of sublimation so you guys can see everything. So just give me a second and I'm going to shut down my screen. This way you can only see me. So hopefully that worked okay. And hopefully you guys can see everything a little bit more clear here. So some of the things I have here today is I'm going to be using a Geonite DK20S heat press. I also have a Vapor Apparel t-shirt. And then with doing apparel with sublimation, I like to use the Vapor Apparel foam pad. This really helps eliminate those press lines. And then I have a lint roller and heat tape. And then also some blowout paper as well to absorb any extra ink that may be omitted. So I'm just going to go ahead and walk through the process here and get started. George, do I have any questions going on?
We do have a question, and I think this one, Carly, is specific to the Sawgrass printer there.
Yeah.
Do you need to print through Creative Studio in order to get deep colors on your Sawgrass printer?
That's a very good question. So Creative Studio is kind of like a design software that Sawgrass has to offer. You do not have to print directly through there, but you do need to print through the Sawgrass Print Manager. That is an extremely important part. So very good question, and thank you for that. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick pre-press of the shirt. This is going to eliminate any extra moisture in the shirt and also take out any wrinkles that may be there. So you don't have to push it all the way down, but just enough to get those wrinkles out and any extra moisture. Perfect. Anything else that came up, George?
Nope, we're good for the moment.
Okay, awesome. And as you can see, I have a Teflon sheet down on my heat press. I just like to keep a Teflon sheet down there to protect it almost at all times. And then this is, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the vapor apparel kit for apparel. So I cut out the vapor foam pad and I have it a little bit smaller than what my artwork page is going to be. And then I'm going to place the Teflon foam sheet over top. I'm going to create kind of like a massive sandwich over here. Next is going to be my shirt. But what I want to do, and I already had it pre-printed, I'm going to go ahead and lint roll it again. I lint rolled it right before I put it under the press, but just in case there was anything on the press, I'm going to go ahead and do that again. There we go. And then I'm just going to align the artwork where I want it. And then I'm using some brown heat tape. This is a little bit thinner and a specific type of heat tape I like to use for apparel, but that's just my own personal preference there. And then I'm going to take everything over to the heat press. Make sure I have it aligned onto that foam pad correctly. And one other thing I like to do is I like to stick a blowout sheet in the middle. Sometimes these fabrics are fairly thin. I haven't had too many issues, but I just want to make sure that none of that ink is going to transfer over to the other side. That would look a little goofy, and I don't want that. Okay, last but not least, the blowout sheet on the top. This just protects my heat platen and any extra gases that may be omitted from the process here. And I'm going to go ahead and press it down. So for this, I have it for 390 degrees, only about 30 seconds, and I have it at a light to medium pressure. So this is a really quick turnaround regarding the full process. I mean, 30 seconds and you're done. More than anything, it's the setup and the prep. Making sure you don't have those press lines is extremely important because then you just have a big box around there. So that's why we like to use the foam here. Okay. Quick, easy process. I'm already done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off in a quick, swift motion. There we go. I did it in a quick, swift motion because I do not want anything to ghost or to move around while it's still hot. I think that's very important to note too. And now we are done. Very quick, very easy. I do want to indicate I use a Vapor Apparel shirt. This is 100% polyester. You got a question for me, George?
We do have a question here. We've got, it's about the foam pad that you have now in your hand,
Yeah.
which is, timing is good. How much smaller, or what size did you use that for when you were making that shirt?
Yeah, so I wanted it just a little bit smaller than the actual page of my artwork. So there was the page, and there was the foam pad. It's kind of hard to see there. Can you see it okay? So I wanted to make it smaller than the page, but yet larger than the artwork that I did. So it gets a little confusing, but we do have technical tips on our website with the Vapor Apparel line, exactly how you need to do these. So if you have any questions after, or maybe you want to see that process done again, we do have that available there.
Carly, we did have another question come in here.
Yep.
And it said, what would cause your design to not be bold and bright like the colors should be and leave a lot on the paper?
Yeah, so some of that might be time. Some of that might be pressure. Those are going to be your two biggest things, is the time and pressure that's being done. You want to make sure you're doing it for the associated time for the product you're looking at. And also the amount of pressure needs to be correct as well. And obviously heat. Typically it's around 390 to 400 is going to be the average temperature. Typically doesn't vary too far from that. But I do want to show an example that I did with a, what is this? This is a 60% cotton shirt and 40% polyester. So I know a lot of my customers really want to try to get away with using something that has less poly in it because of the feel. So I'm going to bring these two shirts together. This is 100% polyester. I'm just going to pop it up here. And this is only 40% polyester. And you can see the differences in the color quality there. It's going to be more muted if you're not using a full polyester shirt. And it's also going to fade a little bit as well. So you need to keep that in mind. Any other questions, George?
Yeah, just a quick one here about the
Yeah.
foam. You can use the foam over and over again, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I would just be careful if you end up getting any ink or anything on that, but you shouldn't, because you should have the foam on the bottom with a Teflon sheet covering it. So you should not be getting any ink or anything on that, but you can use it over and over again. You do just need to cut it down to specify your artwork and the page that you're going to be using.
And then I think one more question here, and you might be getting to this a little bit later, Carly. Someone asked about, can you just put the front or the back of the shirt on the platen, basically threading it?
Yes, you most definitely can just thread it. I just use that blowout paper. That's just what I like to do. It's just a personal preference. But yes, you can totally thread it, and that would eliminate the need for that blowout paper in the middle. That's a really good question, and I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my PowerPoint and then discuss here what I just did, because I want you guys to know the full cost and what you can resell it for as well. So the equipment that I used today, so the total investment of my equipment was the Epson F570 and the Geonite DK20S heat press. I also have the CMYK inks. Those are $17.99 for 140 milliliters per each color for the Epson F570. And then I use the 17-inch by 100-foot roll media, which is $20. So with the Epson F570, it does have a cost calculator built directly into it. So I was able to pull this information directly from there after my print. So the total cost for ink was under a penny. Not very much ink used. Media cost was 18 cents. Not very much media used. So you can see there that it's super efficient and great for that. The total shirt cost was my biggest investment, and that's because I used the Vapor Apparel 100% polyester shirts. So the total cost that I have invested in that product there was $17.14. And then the retail value, we typically recommend anywhere from $20 to $25 for a fully customized shirt. So I think that's very important to go over so you guys know what the cost was of that shirt. And then it took me, what, under a minute to get the whole thing done and completed from start to finish. So I am going to switch now to our heat transfer. So if you just want to give me a second here, I am going to move around a little bit because our heat transfer equipment is just on the other side there.
Carly,
Yeah.
while we're rolling over here, we did have a question about clamshell press and what kind of quality results would you get with a clamshell press, even if it's a high quality clamshell press with the shirts?
Yeah, so with sublimation, I like to steer away from the clamshell presses. And I'm going to turn my camera back on here so you can see me again. All right, can you see me okay? Good? All right. So clamshell presses are going to come down back first. With sublimation, it is extremely important to have that consistent pressure going throughout. That's why I tend to cater to a swing away heat press, because when you swing it away, you push it down, it's even pressure the whole amount of time. I do have some customers that have no issues with a clamshell. I just like to tread on caution. And it makes me a little nervous, especially when you're doing high quality like Chromolux panels, Duralux panels. You want to make sure that that pressure is even and correct and on point. So that's a really good question, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. So we have completely readjusted, as you can tell, and we are now over to our heat transfer area of our demo room. So something different about heat transfer is they have white toner. As I've discussed with sublimation, there is no white ink. So these kind of get you to be able to print on darker substrates. And also with heat transfer, you can virtually transfer onto anything that can withstand heat and fit in a heat press. So I just think that is a phenomenal option, because with sublimation, you can be a little limited there with some of your substrates. So if you're looking for customers who are already doing some of these things and maybe need some on dark shirts, you want to make sure that you can cater to them. There we go. And then just some advantage of the white toner printers, because I know some folks want to go into screen printing, or how do I compare this against vinyl, or even direct to garment. So with screen printing, it's a huge footprint. As you can tell with heat transfer, it's a small footprint, just like sublimation. Desktop size for the majority of them. With vinyl, you're not going to have to weed with the heat transfer printers. So that's a huge factor, and you can offer the full color availability. Direct to garment, if you were looking at going into something like that, it's extremely high in maintenance, and you're going to want to make sure that you're using that printer day in and day out to avoid some clogging of the ink. With heat transfer printers and them being toner based, it's almost virtually no maintenance. You can literally turn it off for 6 months, turn it back on, and have no issues. And that's just one good thing I like to note between the differences between sublimation and heat transfer. Sublimation, you're using ink, aqueous-based ink, and then toner-based ink, or toner-based toner-based, dry toner. Whew, there we go, for heat transfer. Sorry, guys. Go ahead, George.
Hey, quick question, Carly, and this one's going back to the, I'll give you an easy one here. It's on the clamshell presses again, and it's, other than price, what advantages do the clamshell presses have over another style?
Advantages, some of the clamshell presses have an auto open, which I find to be very convenient. One of the disadvantages that I really don't like about a clamshell is because it does pop straight back up. If you're doing heat transfer or if you're doing sublimation, when you're pulling that transfer off, you're exposed right underneath that heat platen. And you just really need to be careful to make sure you don't burn yourself and you have enough space there.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So what do you need for heat transfer? Just like sublimation, you're going to need a PC is what I would recommend. You can use, there's some parallels if you want to use a Mac, but we are going to strongly recommend you to use a PC, especially with the RIP software. Typically, RIP software is only going to be compatible with the PC, the Windows. Very important to know there. You're going to need a white toner printer. They typically already come with toner already with them. You're going to need a specific media as well. So if you're looking to do garments or hard substrates, temporary tattoos, window clings, your papers are going to vary. So you need to have the correct media for what you're looking to print on. And you can print on virtually, like I said, any substrate. So dark garments, wood, you can transfer literally anything that will almost fit in a heat press and accept heat as well. Then you got to have the heat press. So you can use the same heat press you're using for sublimation as you're using for heat transfer. Yes, George.
Another question, and again, I think this is a really good question, so I appreciate the person asking.
Yeah.
If you could go over once again, she was asking with heat transfer, so you can shut that printer off, let it sit, no problem. You don't have to print weekly, correct? With heat
That
transfer?
is correct. Yep.
Okay.
That is correct. That's a very good question. And with it being dry toner, you're not going to have the issues of your print heads clogging. With aqueous-based ink, you're going to want to make sure that you're running that printer consistently, the sublimation printer consistently. So that's a big difference between the two technologies, and I think that's a really great thing to point out. So with heat transfer, something I really like to go over is when you're using it with garments, which is about 90% of what folks use heat transfer for, is it's going to be on the surface of that substrate. So you're going to have a wash life with that. So if you're using the two-step garment paper, just the standard paper, it's going to last you about 40 to 50 washes prior to maybe some cracking or some peeling. So definitely want to set your customers up for success for that, and definitely give them the wash instructions. So wash inside out. Try not to tumble dry. I know that's so hard for so many of us. Low spin cycle, and if you have to iron it, just be very careful. Make sure it's inside and out, and you're trying not to get on that heat transfer. All right. So this is going to be the cost benefit analysis, which I will go over, but first I want to do the demo on the heat transfer equipment. I want to make sure you guys see the full process as to what it takes and how long it takes to complete too, because I think it's really, really important. All right, can we see just me?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, so I used the Uninet iColor 550 today to do my print. So I went ahead and pre-printed. You're going to print on what's called an A sheet. This is the sheet you're going to print on. And then you're going to heat press it together to the B sheet, which is the adhesive. So the nice part of this about this technology is that the adhesive is only going to stick to the toner where the toner was printed. This allows it to be a fully weedless process. So a nice technique I like to do is I like to dog ear the corner of the transfer sheet so I have a nice spot to peel back, because it is going to be pretty hot. I'm covering it there with the silicone finishing sheet, and that's going to protect my heat platen from any additional maybe adhesive that might spill over or anything like that. My temperature is 310 degrees. So definitely quite a bit lower than sublimation. The first press of marrying the two together is going to be 120 seconds, and I have my pressure at about a 5. So I think that's very important. George, what other questions do we have that we can answer? Well, since this takes 120 seconds, I want to make sure we get some questions in while this is going.
I don't want to jump ahead a little bit because I see some of the products you've got back there that you're going to be showing off.
You know, I think that's a perfect time to show them.
We did have somebody say they wanted to make a puzzle out of a piece of wood and then laser cut it. Is there a particular process that they should use to do that, or?
So what I would recommend is using the Unisub hardboard. This is a little thick though, or maybe even some MDF, because you can sublimate right on this. What I would do is I would cut it out first and then sublimate. Make sure you leave the masking. Thank you. I was gonna say adhesive, but that's not right. Make sure you leave the masking on though, and then you'd have to demask and press. So that's definitely an option that you can do. I would really recommend sublimation for the puzzles over heat transfer. It's going to be much more durable and it will not scratch off. Again, it's physically embedded within the substrate. So it's a very important thing to keep track of. So
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're all right. Go ahead, George.
The second question that we had, and we've got a few seconds there left on the press, was could you, as you're maybe doing this, compare and contrast the DK20 press and the Stahls press? Some pros and cons to each.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off real quick because it's very important to make sure you do a hot peel after you marry these two together. So what I'm going to do here is grab where I dog eared and pull very close to the heat platen. I don't want to pull straight up. I want to pull very gently, very swiftly, and very consistently. So you know you had a good transfer when there's nothing left behind on the sheet. My next step is going to be to cut around the adhesive that was left behind here. So if you can see, there's some adhesive right in that corner where I had dog-eared it, and maybe a little at the top. If I did not cut this off, this would transfer to my t-shirt, kind of essentially ruining your t-shirt. There are some tips and tricks to get it off in case you do forget, but I would strongly recommend getting that cut off there. And it doesn't have to be pretty. There's no worries about that. And again, the adhesive only stuck to where the toner was, with the exception of the overflow. And here, again, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick pre-press of the shirt, just like I did with sublimation, to make sure any extra moisture and wrinkles are out. And then I am going to lint roll it. And again, this here, you don't have to push it all the way down, just enough to get those wrinkles out, moisture out, everything like that. And use the lint roller real quick. You want to make sure you don't have anything stuck behind that transfer there. Okay. Now this is going to be a really quick press. So I'm going to align my artwork where I want it. Put the silicone finishing sheet again over top just to protect and flatten. And this is only going to go down for 30 seconds now. Really quick press to the shirt, really quick press. So the differences between the two presses that I'm using today, Geonite DK20S, it's a little bit different of a price point. It's $15.75. It's a total workhorse of a heat press. I really use it as my go-to for heat transfer, for sublimation, almost consistently. This Stahl's Fusion IQ is kind of like the Cadillac of all heat presses. It has a lot of different functionalities. So it has the pull-out drawer, and you can also turn it into a swing-away press as well, which is fantastic. And it has so many different programs and settings. I actually have the iColor two-step paper programs right in here. So it has my pressure, my seconds, my temperature. Everything's all loaded in there, and all the steps are loaded in there as well. This next part of the transfer, you're going to want to make sure your shirt is completely cool prior to peeling. And I'm just going to throw it on the floor there. For video sake, I have another one back here that's already been cooled down. You want to make sure it's completely cool. This way the adhesive is cooled to the shirt. If you peeled it while it was warm, more than likely it's probably going to peel right up with it. So questions, George, while I'm doing this?
Yeah, and I think this is one of the distinctions with heat transfer and sublimation.
Absolutely.
Are those cotton shirts that you're using?
These are cotton t-shirts. So you can usually get these at a lower cost point, which is where I'm going to show you the total cost and benefit analysis of that, why the cost of that is a little bit lower. You can print on virtually anything. So any type of blend of shirt, cottons, blends, polys, dark shirts, red shirts, light shirts, just about anything there. So for this process, you're actually going to be rolling. Oh, you're going to be rolling. You're going to be rolling the transfer right off. So I'll go ahead and get that done here. And the less noise you hear in the rolling, the better. And I had a great successful peel there. There's nothing left behind, no ink left behind or anything like that. So that's a good indication that you had a great full transfer. And the last step here is going to be the finishing press. And this is again only for 30 seconds. Super quick, super easy. You're just going to want to make sure that you don't forget this. And I'm going to change it back to my 30 seconds. This really embeds and kind of finishes that final transfer. If you did forget that final step, sometimes your wash life will not exceed what it needs to. So definitely remember to do that finishing press for just that 30 seconds. It's very, very important.
We had a question on the cost benefit slide that was earlier for sublimation,
Okay?
but I think we send out the PowerPoint to everybody who
Yep.
attends the webinar today,
Yes,
correct? So
we absolutely do. So we will send a follow-up email with you, and that will include the webinar and any handouts that we've also included. So there are a couple of handouts that are available right in the webinar itself right now, but we'll also send that out to you via email. And if you didn't get to watch the full webinar, you can go back and rewatch it again because it is pre-recorded. It's recorded right now. Okay. So here is my finished transfer. As you can see, I used white toner and it feels great. We used a lot of nice negative space to get a nice softer hand to it. And it just looks awesome. Love it. Love it, love it. So I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint so we can kind of go over what exactly this cost us. So for this media here, I did not use a full 8.5 by 11 transfer sheet. I probably only used half of it. So you could print 2 out on that one and get your full money's worth. But for this one, I just went ahead and put $1.20 for the toner and media cost. The shirt cost was only $2.50. So this shirt only cost me $3.70 to produce. It did take me probably about 4 minutes to get through that full process. So that's a little bit different in the time it took me to do the sublimation. You could still sell this shirt for about $20 to $25 retail cost. Definitely a phenomenal price margin there when you really look at those dollars. Up there, I just have the cost benefit analysis of what it would cost for the 2-step garment paper, some hard surface paper, and then also what it's going to cost for your first run once you purchase your printer. And then your second run, you have that full printer already paid off, and then you've got a profit down there at the bottom. I think it's super helpful to look at that and to see what the real cost of that equipment is going to be.
Hey, Carly, we had a question.
Yep.
The question was, can you get all the bright colors that you would get when you were doing the shirts and other things on sublimation also with heat transfer?
Yeah, you can get some phenomenal color quality with heat transfer. There's definitely a difference to it. And I'm going to pull up some samples here of the exact same kind of artwork that I did with the Datasaurus and the Mamasaurus and compare them between each other. You get a beautiful, high quality color. So as long as you guys don't mind, you're going to be stuck seeing me again. And I'm going to come up here and show you the difference between the two that I have. So Datasaurus is done with the heat transfer. Mamasaurus is done with the sublimation. We had to use a white or light colored shirt, 100% polyester, and it is going to be physically embedded within that shirt. And then with Datasaurus, we used 100% cotton shirt. We used a 2-step transfer standard paper, and this will last about 40 to 50 washes. This one is on the surface, so again, it does have that wash life. Still a great option, and it feels fantastic. It's not a heavy vinyl. It doesn't have that heavy vinyl feel to it because we use that negative space in the artwork to really cater to that. And then another couple samples I do want to show is drinkware. I think this is really important. This one, the stainless steel tumbler, this was done with sublimation. So because we did not use a white substrate, you can tell it's a little muted and a little harder to see. There we go. But it's physically embedded and dishwasher safe with this technology. This one here has been heat transferred on a bright orange cup, and it is going to be on the surface. Now, if you want your heat transfer to last a little bit longer, you can definitely do a second round of cooking in a convection oven to kind of seal it in there a little bit. And if you have any questions on that, we can help you. So it's going to be on the surface. But you can print on virtually anything. that can fit in a heat press and withstand heat. So any colors, any backgrounds, and you see that we popped out quite a bit of white here and just looks fantastic. And then the next comparison I do want to show is using our home decor line. So this is a wood that's been heat transferred on. Also looks fantastic here. And this was the Unisub cardboard that I showed earlier. This was sublimated. So this is physically embedded within that substrate, will not scratch or rub off. It's physically stuck inside there. What questions do we got, George?
So we got a question about the mugs.
Yeah.
Now, if it were me, the answer is probably a week because I keep dropping my mug everywhere, but it's how long do the mugs last? So I guess maybe more speaking to the durability of the imprints.
Durability of the actual.
That's, yeah, the sublimation and the heat transfer,
Yeah.
which one's probably a little more durable?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So sublimation would definitely be more durable because it's physically embedded in a part of the mug. It's not sitting on the surface, so you cannot scratch it off, you cannot wash it off. It's physically embedded in there. Whereas the sublimation or the heat transfer, it is going to be on the surface of the mug here. So you will be able to eventually scratch this off or wear this down. I would recommend hand washing only with heat transfer, using it on drinkware. I think that's really important.
So as you see me handing you a piece of equipment here, but we did have a question about how you, or what press you use to do the mugs.
Yes, so you can use a mug press or you can use a convection oven with a shrink wrap. And, whew, sucker's a little heavier than what I remember. This is the mug press that we use. So this is the JP 450. This does have 4 different attachments
Correct.
to it. So it kind of caters to quite a bit of drinkware options that we would be using. Thanks, George.
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal questions, guys. All right, and to kind of capture everything that we talked about, because I know it does get so confusing, just want to go over the comparison side by side with sublimation and heat transfer. So can you print on all blends of fabrics? With sublimation, you cannot. It has to only be polyester fabrics. With heat transfer, yes, you can print on all blends of fabrics, cottons, polys, blends, just about any type of fabric. Is it scratch proof, vandal proof, or waterproof? Sublimation, yes, absolutely is. It's physically embedded within that substrate and becomes a part of that substrate. With heat transfer, it's only going to be on the surface. Sublimation is an ink-based, so you're going to have some regular maintenance that is going to be required. Let me get this popped up. Sorry, you don't want to see just me here. There you go. So this is, with sublimation, it is ink-based. So you're going to have regular maintenance required. You're going to want to make sure you leave your printer on at all times so it can do its daily maintenance and cleaning. Heat transfer, like I talked about, you can turn that printer off, turn it back on in 6 months and have no issues because it's dry toner. You're not going to have that clogging issue like you would with sublimation. Full bleed capabilities on a print. So this is a very big deal, especially if you're looking at doing some Chromolux panels or some all over bleed sublimation for apparel. You can do that with sublimation. With heat transfer, you could not. You're limited to your transfer size. So that's a very important part. And then also, can you print on all substrates? With sublimation, again, it has to have that poly coating or poly material, and it has to be white or light colored. Heat transfer, you can print on all substrates that can withstand heat and fit in a heat press. And I mean, actually, we have some additions to that. I mean, you can use our water slide paper, which allow you to transfer to something that is going to be heat sensitive. You would actually use water to get that transfer to adhere to it. So yes, go ahead, George.
Kind of a question relating to what you're talking about here, Carly. Which process is better for daylight/UV fade resistance?
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend either product is going to be great for that. It really depends on the substrate. With sublimation, we have some specific panels that are outdoor weatherable. So like the Duralux and Chromolux panels, they have either a 2-year or 5-year warranty for outside capabilities. So sublimation really shines in that effect. And I'm actually going to grab one of the panels here because I think it's really good to look at. This was done with sublimation. So a lot of sublimators love to do photo panels, and I am one of them. As you can see, this is my dog. It just gives a beautiful quality image, artwork, detail, very intense. I would not recommend doing something like this with heat transfer. It would be very, very difficult to adhere to and have it adhere to the panel. That's a really great question, and I really appreciate that. Anything else that came up?
Well, here's a weird one I'm going to throw at you. Not a weird one, but a unique one. To personalize an umbrella, would you use sublimation or would you use heat transfer?
You could probably use either,
Yeah.
which is nice. The only thing you need to make sure is if the umbrella is sublimation ready. So we do have some on our website, some cute, super cute umbrellas that are able to be sublimated. I would sublimate an umbrella over heat transfer because sublimation is waterproof, scratch proof, vandal proof, where heat transfers on the surface, and it probably would not last very long on the umbrella because it is going to be hitting the weather. That's a great question. I really like that one. I really like that one. So I'm just going to kind of wrap up a little bit here. With any of our equipment, if you decide to purchase, we are offering what's called JPP bucks. So on any qualifying piece of equipment, you actually get money back, which is fantastic. And you can spend here at JPP within the next 30 days of receiving that and get whatever products you want to play around with. It's such a phenomenal option that we have to offer, and I'm so excited about it. You can pick whatever substrates you want and just kind of play around. So I really like that. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know if you want to ask. Real quick, we did have another question.
Yeah.
What are the printer brands that we have for heat transfer? And you might as well do sublimation as well. So.
Yes, I absolutely love that. So I didn't go over and in detail of the printers. This is a kind of shorter webinar, so I didn't want to go through the details of those. But right here, I have the Uninet iColor brand. So we have the iColor 550. That one does a max media size of 8.5 by 14. We have the iColor 600, which does a max media size of 11 by 17. And then we have the iColor 800, which does a maximum media size of 12.5 by 19. And then we do also carry the Oki brand as well. And we have those printers to offer to you too. So we have the Oki 8432. That one does an 11 by 17 media size. And the Oki 9541, which is the true 5-color toner printer. So it has a CMY, W, and black. So that's the first 5-color printer available, and that's the Oki 9541, which does 12.5 by 19 maximum media size. And then sublimation printers, we carry all of the Sawgrass brand, and then as well as the Epson brand. So the printer I used over there today was the Epson F570. That was the 24-inch roll printer, and it can also accept cut sheets as well. That capture that question pretty good? Okay, awesome. Well, this is me. If you guys have any questions about equipment or anything that I can help with, please feel free to reach out. And then we also have our workshops down at the bottom. If you go to that web page, you'll see all of our previously recorded webinars and also all of our webinars that are coming up. We're doing a ton of these. We absolutely love doing these. Without having trade shows available, this is really a great way for us to talk and communicate with you guys, show you demos on the equipment, and then help with any questions. And then we also can do personal webinar demos too. If that's something you're interested in, just reach out to one of us sales reps, and we'd be happy to do a one-on-one webinar demo with you. So I just want to thank you guys so very much for attending. If you want to check out any of our products, jpplus.com, or send me an email and I'm happy to direct you wherever you need to go. Thanks so much, guys, and have a great rest of your day.